Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. I was prepared for the fact that the week was about to end. Long meetings, sleepless nights, too many transfers, and a strong time zone shift. All this led to the fact that I was very tired. Even when I was young, such a week would have been exhausting. But at 48, it made me regret some life decisions. Thank God that unlike the good old days, I have to travel only occasionally. When I opened the door of my house, I hoped that the house would smell like a ready-made dinner, and perhaps I would receive a welcome kiss from Samantha, my wife of almost 25 years. The first would be commonplace, the second a little less so, but neither one nor the other was waiting for me. The house was dark. The lights were on only in the hallway and in the kitchen. I called out to her, hanging up my coat and arranging my luggage on the floor in the foyer. "I'm in the kitchen." Her voice sounded strained, as if she was angry or crying. When I entered the kitchen and found her sitting in our little breakfast nook, I clearly realized that it was both. My wife's brown eyes were reddened and swollen but filled with a fierce light. Her usually immaculate brown hair was disheveled, and her ponytail and stray strands resembled a slowly unwinding rope. All this indicated what kind of conversation we were going to have, but the last detail finally finished off. 2 manila envelopes lay on the table in front of her. "Kyle, we need to talk. I'm too tired to put up with any nonsense, but sooner or later I'll have to deal with it." Sinking into the chair opposite her, I said wearily, "Of course. About what?" Without a word, Samantha handed me one of the envelopes. Inside was a selection of photographs. Despite the poor quality, they talked about a lot. Here I am having dinner with a gorgeous blonde a little older than me. The two of us are holding hands walking down the street. We are in a passionate embrace in front of the apartment door. My hand slides up under a tight red mini dress to squeeze her almost naked ass. The timestamps in the photos jumped the next morning. We say goodbye, and I squeeze her small, firm breasts for the last time through the negligee she put on to see me off. In the last picture, I look slightly regretful, but it's clear that I'm disappointed that I'm leaving, and not blaming myself for what I was doing inside. In a smooth, almost pleasant voice, I asked, "Where did you get them?" "What does it matter?" There was no reciprocity in her tone, not even an approximation to congeniality. She is outraged, and I was a little curious what exactly upset her the most. That I had changed, that my first answer was a question about the source of her information, or that I didn't seem at all concerned. With a wave of my hand, I threw the evidence of my betrayal back on the table. "Well, mostly because they're not very good. Jenna looks much more attractive in person and likes to leave the blinds ajar when we make love. Any decent private investigator could—" "What's the matter with you?" Tears were mingling with the rage now. I shrugged my shoulders. "I don't know what to do. Sue me." "Oh, wait, that's what you were going to do, right?" After all, I assumed that the other envelope contains the divorce papers. Sam began to sob. "What the fuck, Kyle? Is this a joke to you?" I don't think it was the way she wanted it to be. It's funny that people can have such different expectations. It all depends on which facts are available to them and which are not. "Oh no, not at all. I'm sure it's tearing you apart. It's a terrible feeling, I know." Leaning forward, I made a particularly unpleasant face at her. Personally, it just killed me then. "What?" She changed her tone slightly. The wind had not yet left her sails, but it was already beginning to change. "Well, you know, when you cheated on me. Or at least when I found out about it." Samantha's face went limp for a moment, shiny trickles of salt water still dripping from it. A new indecision followed the sudden realization that what she knows, or even what she can prove, doesn't matter. It's always about what I know, and I know almost everything. Well, anyway, that's all that really matters. My wife started to stutter. I... What am I, Sam?" "I didn't cheat. I don't understand what you're talking about. I didn't mean anything by it." "I'm sorry? Which I exactly did you want to use?" "Oh, I know. I shouldn't have slept with Ronnie Perkins." "Is that right? Did you know?" Her voice was strangled, and I couldn't help but laugh. There was betrayal in her voice, even more so than when I first sat down across from her. "Stop laughing at me, you knew." Wiping a tear from my eye, I managed to switch from laughing to giggling. "Not right away. Not when you did it. Not even during the 4 months you made love to him. And not immediately after you stopped. Not even for a year after that. I'd say you hid it well, but you didn't. I just wasn't looking. Now it was my turn to declare betrayal, and my finger pointed angrily in her direction. Because I trusted you. Because we always agreed that the most important thing in marriage, more important than fidelity, trust, or even love, is honesty. That none of this will happen if you don't always tell each other the truth about important things, no matter how painful it is. Sam turned away so quickly that my words could have been called a slap in the face. Shaking my head, I continued. But when I found out about it, Matt was a freshman in college and Riley had just turned 12. I didn't want to ruin their lives. My laughter went from self-deprecation to outright disgust. No, that's not quite right. God, it's become so easy to lie to you. I can't stand it. I hate that I can lie to my wife, and I hate that I can do it so easily just because I know how long she's been lying to me. The truth is that I didn't want to be a part-time father, so I accepted that I knew everything. I was desperately hoping that maybe eventually you'd remember how important honesty is in a marriage. Did you even realize how openly unhappy I've been for months? Or did you even give a damn about me by then? She croaked. I don't care. I've always loved you. It was said flatly and without any affect. You can't do this to someone you love, or at least to someone you have strong feelings for. Her eyes came back to me. I don't care. I really don't care. I made a mistake, you know? I was lonely and he was charismatic. Yes. Oh, my husband is away all the time because he has to work. Oh, I'm so lonely. Oh, it's so boring when the kids are at school. Stop making fun of me, I snorted. Oh, I'm sorry that I was too dismissive. How ugly of me. Well, I mean, you haven't treated me with contempt for 10 years, but... I didn't relate. She was trying to gain momentum. To hell with it. Let him rant. I already knew who would win, none of us. But by the time it's all over, I'll have lost a lot less. I made a mistake. Yes, I was lonely, I was bored, I was unhappy. I shouldn't have cheated, but it wasn't done out of contempt. Sam's shoulders slumped, and it seemed that the energy that had animated her had gone away again. I was weak, and I know it. I know, and I'm very sorry. Seeing that she at least paused, and oh, how disappointed I was, how I wanted to fight after so many years and all her lies. I continued to explain her mistakes, trying to get my wife out of a state of useless remorse and self-pity. Let's leave aside the question of whether the betrayal was contemptible. I say it was, and I am the offended party. Smiling broadly, I waved my hand at the photos of my young mistress. Well, I was then. Maybe not so much now. But how about hiding it from me? Don't let me decide what I want to do after you cheated on me? Are you saying that it was treating me with respect? Really? Sam was breathing heavily, whether from fear, anger, or panic, I'm not sure. It wasn't disrespectful or even dishonest. I loved you. Please, I loved you. It was not... I've already ruined everything. I didn't want to make things worse and hurt you even more. I was never going to do it again, and I did everything I could to make it up to you. Except treat me like a fucking adult. Or even... I laughed. No, not even as an adult. Just as a person. As a real person, someone you respect so much that... I drummed my fingers on the table. Do you remember when Riley broke that vase? She was what, 6? 5. Sam rubbed her hand, looking away. She knew where this was going and she didn't like it. That's right, 5. And then she tried to hide it from us. What was she in the most trouble for? For the cover-up, right? And you know what? She screamed and cried and said it wasn't fair. But you told her that good people admit their mistakes, regardless of the consequences for themselves. It's not the same thing. Refuting my wife's words, dropping her defense, I continued. Do you remember how proud we were of her after she was in that accident when she was 16? Riley had all the options. It was dark, the streets were slippery, someone might have their headlights on. She could have told us 100 lies and gone unpunished. But no, our daughter remembered the lesson that you taught her. And she admitted that she was distracted by the phone. She accepted the punishment without a murmur. I was so proud of her that she learned the lesson you taught her, that she did the right thing. I leaned forward over the table again, pointing an accusing finger. But you couldn't do it. You couldn't even be as responsible or honest as a 16-year-old girl. Everything was different. It wasn't easy. It wouldn't be easy if I faced the consequences. You'd get hurt, and then the kids could get involved if we couldn't. She sighed. If you couldn't forgive me, I don't think we'll ever know. But here's something I know. I began to enumerate, counting off my fingers. The first one. You say you were bored, but you were the one who wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, even when the kids went to school. It's on your conscience. You agreed to this, only because you wanted it. I wouldn't mind. No, I'd be happy if you went back to work. We could use your money and I could cut back on my job. I could be at home. Hence the second point. You were lonely. So join this fucking club. You have kids, you have girlfriends. Damn, your family lives nearby. Being on the road, I was alone all the time. I was so desperately lonely that sometimes I wanted to cry. But I didn't make love to anyone anyway. I was faithful, and I didn't cheat. And besides, I was on the road only because of the first point. You didn't want to work. It's not. Shut up. I'm not done. I've been waiting 8 fucking years to speak out, you traitor, and you damn well listen to me. Sam flinched. I had never called her names before and rarely raised my voice at anyone. Point 3. Unhappy. Were you so damn unhappy? I was working hard, my wife was estranged from me. I hardly saw my children, and all this was not by my will. I had to support my family because I was the only one who was going to do it. All that. It's because you want to be a Susie housewife. That's it. Samantha looked at the table. I know, I was selfish, I should have realized that it was hurting you as much as it was hurting me. Even more. But I had it. Tunnel vision. I was listening to the wrong people. That worthless bitch Jeannie, right? Her idiot friend Sam had been with her since high school. Divorced 3 times. For some reason, all divorces are not her fault, although she cheated on at least 2 people. She always claimed that she only cheated after everything fell apart. Sam didn't want to hear how implausible that was, at least not until Jeannie disappeared from our lives shortly after my wife's affair. Sam nodded in displeasure. I met Ronnie through her. She dated him after her last divorce and said he was wonderful. A good listener. That's all she said I needed, another person who would listen to me. A man's opinion on everything. I only planned to talk to him. I see. It's true. My wife's voice was low, weak. At first we were just talking, but he convinced me that... She swallowed. You seem to know what I did. I don't want to go into details. I knew it. Not all the details, but enough so that I don't feel the need to retell them at this table. At least not yet. I've had almost 10 years to plan some kind of confrontation, and although there are some variables that I can't account for, I now know the general direction we're heading in. Yes, I know what you did. I turned away from her. I just don't know why. She said softly, I told you why. No, you told me. You told me what you did, or at least enough of it. You told me how you felt, what led you to this. But I don't understand. I haven't cried for a long time because of her betrayal, but suddenly I felt a lump in my throat. I don't understand why you didn't come to me. She didn't talk to me. If you were honest, Despite the fact that the burden of the secret I had been carrying had finally been lifted, my shoulders sagged. What a damn waste. I loved you so much I would try to figure it out. I would go to consultations with you. And then, a sideways glance told me that Sam was watching me intently. If you had told me everything, I can't promise that I would have been able to forgive, survive. But I would try. I still loved you back then. Tears started rolling out of her eyes again. Then, not now? I nodded. She hissed, Fuck you. Excuse me? There was so much pain in her features, so much rage and suffering in her gaze. You changed it too. He lied too. Fatigue weighed on me, but the fight wasn't over yet. With a quick jerk of my neck, I straightened up again. I can hold out for a few more rounds. I owe it to both of us. Only after you did it. Sam lost her temper, waving her arms. And this justifies everything? And you could have come to me. You knew I did it, but you didn't say anything. You just went and satisfied that blonde woman. A quick verbal counterattack interrupted her barrage. She's not the first one. What? She's not the first one. Not even the 10th. Sam didn't say anything, just stared at me, uselessly clapping her mouth. I didn't knock her out, but she staggered. I got up and moved to the refrigerator, then looked at her. Beer? No response. The lids were removed from 2 bottles, and I put one in front of her, and then took a long sip from the other. I found out about it a little over a year after your betrayal. Well, anyway, after you stopped having an affair, so I guess about a year and a half after you broke your vow to me. Do you remember when we wanted to give your old iPad to Riley? A slight nod, finally at odds with the sickening realization that must have been creeping up on her. You haven't used it for a long time, so it was a good starter tablet for her. But first it had to be cleaned. I grinned as understanding blossomed on her face, quickly followed by horror. Thank God I did it, for the sake of all of us. I don't want her to find out about making love from your letters. That's when I found out everything. I took my tablet with me on trips. It made sense for me to deal with him. You've never been very tech-savvy, right? You didn't know that emails and messages remain on the tablet even after they are erased if you don't connect the tablet to the network after you do this. I bought you a new one for our anniversary, remember? She nodded dejectedly again. So, yes, there were all your emails to him, Jeannie, and... I shook my head. I turned out to have at least a novel plan. When it started, when it ended, why it ended, and all that. And as soon as I synced the tablet with your account again, after I saved all these incriminating messages in a safe place, Sam grimaced. I saw that you deleted all the evidence of your affair. There are no new ones either, but that doesn't mean anything. You could have just gotten smarter. You've already cheated once, why don't you change it again? Or maybe you've done it before. Maybe Ronnie wasn't the first one to cuckold me. It was the only time. Her voice was muffled. Was there pain in it for herself or for me? From the realization of how long I've been living with the realization of what she did. I would like to think that this is more likely the second, but recent evidence suggests that this is more likely the first. Or maybe it's a mix of both. I don't think Sam is really angry, just weak, spoiled, and dishonest. I know that now. By that time, I sighed. By the time I found out our financial affairs were going better, not good enough for me to hire a detective, but good enough for me to be home a little more often if I wanted to. I was going to surprise you after the trip, during which I found out everything. I looked away. But when I found out what you did, that was the last thing I wanted. By that time, I was already used to not being around children. I couldn't stand it, but I got used to it. And I knew that I wanted to have as little to do with you as possible, so I was able to prioritize when I was at home. I pursed my lips, trying to swallow the lump that had formed in my throat again. I was in complete disarray for most of the trip. All the time I wasn't working, I was either crying or drinking, or drank and cried. It's a miracle I didn't lose those customers. A grin appeared. But damn it, I've traveled more than anyone else on my team. I am the best seller, and all it cost me was my marriage. Not necessarily, but you wanted it. I didn't mean it, she sobbed angrily. I wanted you to be at home. I wanted you to be with us, with me. But not enough to do something productive, not enough to tell me how unhappy you are, so much so that you are ready to spread your legs for the first sympathetic ear with a male organ attached to it. Not enough to find a job on my own. She started to speak, but I waved her words away. It doesn't matter. What happened happened. You can't fix this, and I don't want to listen to your excuses. It's about me now, Sam. About what I did because of what you did. You were making love to another man. Not once, not by drunken mistake. No, as far as I can tell, you've slept with him at least 30 times in 4 months. Wait a minute, no. That's the number of times you've been with him, and how many times you've actually made love, I have no idea. 50? 100? More? I shook my head. It doesn't matter. You did it voluntarily, and you've done it repeatedly. I knew I couldn't be around you any more than I had to. That's why for a while I suddenly started traveling, when before I tried to give them up, remember? Oh, just a little more, and then I'll be able to be home more often. In its own way, it was true. Not because it was supposed to strengthen my position. I have already strengthened it. It was so that I would have time to plan everything, and then for a while come to terms with the fact that you are next to me. Condensation from my beer was accumulating on the table, forming a ring. I probably should have used a stand, but I didn't care what happened to it. It doesn't look like it's going to be mine for long. At first I tried to figure out if there was any way to stay with you, how I could approach you with evidence, but I didn't see a way. You've been lying to me all this time, and forcing you to confess is not the same as confessing yourself. And then I thought about getting a divorce. I gestured at the unopened envelope. Just like you. I think it took me longer than you did. I wonder why. Shaking my head, I continued. Anyway, I thought it all out, and at best I lived in a shitty little apartment, saw the kids every weekend and gave you money to make love to whoever you want. I am not a woman of easy virtue. I made a mistake. Samantha finally found her voice. She didn't have to worry. I was going to tell my story. I've already known her story longer than I'd like. She's finally going to hear mine. I don't care. That silenced her again. It doesn't matter if you are a woman of easy virtue or not, but as soon as you became divorced, you would have to find a job to have additional income, and for what, 6 months? In a year at most, you would have found yourself a new boyfriend, probably in the same place where you worked. You're still attractive, but you were beautiful then. So I would have to pay a lot of money not to see my kids, fund your satisfaction with another guy, and be miserable alone. This did not happen. We've already found out that you don't know a damn thing about electronics. I took a look at the cloud backups of your devices. I created them for you, and I doubt you even knew they existed. I have not found any evidence of an earlier or later affair. Back then, it was a piece of cake to install keyloggers and trackers on all your shit. Damn, I don't think you even know how to turn off Find My Phone. And as far as I can tell, you haven't cheated on me anymore. Of course I didn't cheat. I felt so guilty about it. I rolled my eyes. And how would I know that? For God's sake, Sam, I even did a paternity test to make sure the kids were mine at all. They look so much like you that I couldn't even be sure of it as soon as I found out that you had changed. The mother of my children looked shocked and outraged, and I was pleased. Not so much because I wanted her to feel bad, although at that moment, of course, it was a nice bonus, but because her reaction was sincere. That look said that she had loved me once. Such pain, understanding that a loved one could think such terrible things about you, is difficult to fake. Do you understand now? Do you understand how much you offended me? I know you think you understand how much it hurts with your bunch of photos, but you have no idea about it. I'm stuck with a woman who cheated on me, who lied to me, whom I no longer trust. My life is connected to hers, at least if I want to live well. And I have to hide my anger, my indignation, and my sadness. I'm trapped in a frame. I have to lie to everyone because of what you did. And the scariest thing? I still loved you. If I didn't love you, everything would be simple. I could treat you like that manager I hate or like some other irritant that I need to put up with. But I have to put down my anger and find a way to move on, knowing that the woman I loved more than anyone in the world stabbed me in the back. And that's what I did. I found a way to deal with it. She chuckled. By satisfying other women? You're a fucking hypocrite. Not right away, no. My bottle is empty. I thought about getting another beer, but realized I was going to drive soon, so I decided to have a soda. Sam didn't touch hers. At first, I tried to find a way to channel my rage into a productive channel. My sales were growing. I thought of every extra dollar I earned as a chance to be free from you. But at night, he was still alone with his thoughts. Drinking wasn't a long-term solution. But do you know what almost every hotel has? Gym. Sam's brows drew together. Is that why you got in shape? I thought you wanted to. Yes, I know what you were thinking. I've said a lot of nonsense to you. I sighed. Okay, not all of this is true. I really wanted to be in the best shape to keep up with the kids, but mostly I needed something to occupy my anger. And I had a lot of anger. I'm sorry I didn't know that. Samantha took my hand. Her expression was compassionate. I pulled my hand away as if from a snake. The time for a loving reconciliation is past. She took care of it. Don't. Sam's hand hovered over the counter, wondering if she should continue. Something in my eyes or in my body language told her that this was a bad idea. I would never hurt her, but I would definitely get up and leave. While my wife was hugging herself, I continued my story. No, I wasn't going to cheat on you. It took me 5 or 6 months to come up with this idea. I didn't have many trips then, remember? But I was still so unhappy. It was during one of these trips that I spent the first night with another woman since you and I got married. You cheated. Call it your word. I didn't cheat. Cheating would mean that I violated the rules of our marriage. I poked her with the neck of my soda bottle. But you've already done it. You cheated. You lied to me. You've been hiding everything. As far as I understand it, and I understand it that way, this means that they are no longer rules that I have to obey. Nonsense. I don't care what you think. I did what I had to do to stay sane, to stay with the kids, and to try to get back some of the self-respect that you and that bastard stole from me. Take a deep breath and exhale through your nose. But damn it, this is probably the last real conversation we're going to have, so I'll play along. If our roles were reversed, if I was cheating, lying, hiding, and, the key point, if you knew, but revealing this knowledge would mean that you would have to live in poverty without children, what would you do? Would you feel even a little guilty if you had a chance to turn the tables? She opened her mouth to speak, Don't even try to lie to me anymore. You didn't feel guilty enough to even admit what you did. Hell, you didn't even try to make my life easier by offering me a job after cheating. Half the letters between you and Jeannie before you turned her down were about how to make sure you didn't get divorced, so you wouldn't lose a comfortable life with me. No, about how I won't lose you. Not the life we had, not the house, but you and the children. I looked at her coldly. Even now, she couldn't be honest. With me or with myself or with both, I'll never know. That's all you need to tell yourself to get through this day. One more sip to collect my thoughts. In short, the first woman. I won't name names unless it's necessary. You know Jenna, but I don't want you to fall into the delusion of trying to ruin the lives of others. The first one, let's call her Anna, was my employee in another office. Her husband cheated on her, so I trusted her. And on one of the trips, I didn't just trust her. She suggested that I need to do sports to regain my masculinity and strength. Or, whatever it is. And she was right. After that first time, I felt guilty, but not as much as I probably should have. Did you have that too? It doesn't matter. The question is rhetorical. Anna and I spent a few more nights together that week, but neither of us wanted it to turn into something serious. She was recently divorced, and for me the point of this was to handle the situation well enough to stay with you until the children grow up. We broke up. Sometimes we met later when we were in the mood, but mostly we just stayed friends. And then I was able to come home to you. I really came home. I still hated what you did, but now I had my own secrets and my own lies. A sarcastic grin for my also two-faced wife. It's exciting, isn't it? To know what your better half doesn't know? I've never looked at it like that. It's always been that way. I started quoting a particularly memorable letter. Ronnie, I feel so dirty hiding this from Kyle. It turns me on so much. I love him, but... Stop it, I already said it was a mistake. She sighed. I didn't feel like that after that. I felt myself just dirty, really dirty. Not excited, guilty. But not guilty enough, right? Not enough to admit it. You had an affair and it was beautiful and hot, and the only reason you stopped it wasn't because you felt guilty, but because he became too demanding. And even now you're trying to trick me. I grinned. But that's what you're all about, isn't it? I've slept with a dozen women. My affair lasted 2 years, and I still treated you and our family with more respect than you did me. Her mouth opened slightly. Then she stammered, 2 years? Damn, her detective sucks. Until recently, I did my best to hide them from you. They were all out of town, all for a short time. I've always used a condom, unlike you and that jerk. I've never taken up time with you and our family. You can't say that, can you? You've postponed our anniversary dinner. One day you picked up the kids from school so late that they called me while I was out of town. And later I found out that in each case it was done so that you could sleep with your boyfriend. And then I looked through our finances and found that you periodically withdrew cash. For what, Sam? Why were you doing this while I was killing myself to provide for us? She was silent, sullenly. That's what I thought. I grabbed the second envelope. Sam tried to stop me, but she was too slow. Don't. While I was flipping through the pages, she turned away, burying her head in the sand again, hoping that the problem would disappear if she just didn't admit it. Jesus, Sam, you must have really hated me. Wow, 70-30? Are you getting a house? So much alimony? You're aiming high, I think. You cheated on me with that bitch for 2 years. I shrugged my shoulders. You didn't know that. A thick pack fell onto the table with a crash. You're not going to get anything like that. I also have evidence of your infidelity. Even better than yours, for that matter. What do you really have? A few photos that hint at making love but don't confirm it? And anyway, this state is without fault. It hurt so much when I found out about her. What you did. I wanted to hurt you too. Yes, I understand. She bowed her head. At first I wanted to do the same thing. I've been losing my temper over the years. For example, I told Ronnie's wife about what you did with him. He's a serial cheater. And besides, a rapist. God, I haven't smoked in years, but I wish I had a cigarette for this moment. That's why he's dead now. What? Sam's eyes widened and fear appeared in her expression. Calm down. I didn't kill him. You're not worth going to jail for. According to his wife, he had a heart attack when he was satisfying another married woman. It's strange that such a young guy died like that, especially since his wife was a nurse. But maybe that's why he died so young. Contraindications to medications are another thing. However, I didn't ask the former Mrs. Jenkins. We were too busy with other things. She looked at me in horror again, but I just smiled sweetly and took the glass. In general. After all I wanted was for you to tell me the truth. I wanted to believe that you were still the one who taught our daughter honesty. I wanted you to be the woman I fell in love with. I did my best to be loving with you. Be warm. Remember? It still hurt, but I tried to put it aside. I tried to understand from your letters why you did exactly that. And when I was able to deal with the pain in my own way. I tried to find a way to get back to us. I've given you so many opportunities to confess, so many chances to justify yourself. Do you remember how we lay in bed that night after, what's their name? That famous couple who broke up because one of them cheated. And I told you that if you ever cheat on me, I'd rather find out from you than any other way. I saw you thinking about it, and then you told me. Her voice was empty. I will never cheat on you because I love you too much. Yes. I turned away. When I went on business trips, it was the second time I changed. She didn't answer. I didn't scream. So you're saying it's my fault? It was clear. That's exactly what I meant. She cheated. She lied. She betrayed not only me, but also the main value that we both considered the most important in marriage. Every time I gave her a chance, encouraged her to do it, almost begged her, she just dug deeper. And after that, I went and cheated. It was a stupid, self-destructive coping mechanism, but it was the only one I had. I tapped on the envelope that contained the photos. It was your last chance. I didn't suddenly become stupid. Jenna and I could hide this from you indefinitely. I wanted you to find out. I was hoping. A tear rolled down my cheek. Apparently, I haven't cried enough about the destruction of our marriage yet. I was hoping that you would find out, that you would meet with me, but you would confess to what you did. Try to find a way back with me. Then I opened another envelope. But when did you see it? I realized that everything was over between us. I tried so hard to keep loving you until I saw this envelope. That's when I realized that either you were never the woman I thought I married, or you changed somewhere along the way. Anyway, that woman is gone and won't be coming back. Her mouth opened, then closed again. Samantha didn't say anything. She couldn't deny that not only had she prepared the documents, but they would have been ruinous for me if some judge hadn't made fun of them in court. And when they made claims against her, she lied anyway. Lying has become second nature to her, and probably to me too. I lied to myself until the very end about who my wife was. Sam was looking at me when I got up. I'll come back for my things later. My lawyer will contact you. The agreement will be fair. I don't want to send you to the poorhouse, Sam. You've been a good wife for 15 years, and you're still a great mother. I don't hate you anymore. I hated you for a while, but I sighed. Now I'm just sad. She nodded silently. I bent down and kissed the top of her head one last time. Goodbye, beautiful. It's a pity. It could have been different. And then I left, and the sounds of sobbing were left behind when I closed the door of what was once my home. After that, I just drove for a while. I knew where I was going, but first I needed to be alone. I needed to grieve alone. In the end, I called a woman I could always rely on. It's funny that our relationship started so innocently. 4 years ago, I became Jenna's mentor. She had just graduated from college, received an MBA degree so new that the ink was still wet, and had ambitions that could put captains of industry to shame. We met at one of the networking events, and I immediately realized that she was planning to succeed. At first, I didn't consider her in terms of betting well. No more than any other beautiful young woman, perhaps even less. I liked our friendship, a simple friendship. Jenna was grateful for my guidance, and I was proud of her success. Eventually, we became so close that one day at dinner I confided in her. She wanted to talk to me about a new contract she was considering, but I got distracted. Sam once again did not admit to what she had done when she had the opportunity, and I was lost in thought. When I told Jenna my story, she listened and comforted me. I was pleased that there was someone with whom I could share a secret and even more. I've never had an emotional affair. The closest one was with the first one, the one I called Anna when Sam talked about her. But even that turned out to be unsuccessful. Sometimes she offered a friendly shoulder to cry on, sometimes a very desirable partner. There was no serious emotional involvement. Jenna is different. First of all, we have been friends for a long time. She lives in the same city as me. We could meet and met often, but I meant only friendship with her, not a bed partner. Everything changed after her fiancé left her. We didn't have any intimacy then, but after she was healing for a few months, Jenna and I had a drink and then went to bed. It turned out that we fit each other in almost every way. Despite this, I still had one child at home, and I did not lose hope that Sam would confess when we were alone in an empty nest. Besides, Jenna is quite young, and leaving my wife for her will undoubtedly make tongues wagging. Therefore, we kept within the bounds of the ordinary. We were more than friends and less than constant lovers. I certainly wasn't exclusive with her, and I didn't expect her to be that way with me. We just agreed that she would let me know if she was busy. No details are required. I was sure that she would soon find a young man to marry. But Jenna never found it. Instead, we continued to negotiate, and when it became clear that Samantha had only one chance to confess, to make my infidelities so blatant that a blind woman could see them, Jenna fully agreed to her role in this venture of mine. Damn it. She did almost everything to make it clear that we were having an affair, except for attaching her soiled panties to Sam's pillow with a note. "I'm making love to your husband." The memory of her threatening to do just that made me smile. Why Jenna actually made me smile. I doubted our romance would end simply because he stopped being adulterous, but eventually some guy her age would hook her up anyway. She deserves such happiness, but for now, I was going to enjoy her company as much as I could. She picked up on the third ring. "Jenna's apartment, this is the drifter." I snorted. Mission accomplished. She found out. "Really? Cool. It only took her 6 months." I said softly. She was waiting for me with the divorce papers. Her tone changed from playful to sympathetic. "Oh, Kyle, baby. And how are you?" "Oh, actually, it sucks. Are you busy today?" "No, not at all. Come over?" "Thanks." When I appeared at her door with my suitcases in my hands, Jenna hugged me tightly, and then led me inside and held my hands while I told her everything that had happened. When I finished, she said, "I'm so sorry, baby. Well, that is," she sighed. "I'm sorry that she hurt you and that she couldn't just tell you the truth, but look, I'm going to be honest, okay? I'm glad you're divorcing her." "Yes, yes." Jenna kissed me with a gentle, sweet kiss. "I'm glad that everything has already been decided. Now you know. And," she bit her lip, "now you can move on." Her hand stroked my cheek. Maybe with me?" "What? Seriously?" "Jenna, I'm almost twice your age." Another kiss, a stronger one. "But you're not twice my age." "Not quite. Older? Yes. But I'm a grown woman, Kyle, and I know what I want and who I want." I said mockingly, "Jenna, stop it. I know that you have young guys in line too." "I haven't seen anyone but you for almost a year, Kyle. I didn't need anyone, and I didn't want to, for that matter." She suddenly leaned against me, her hard body pressed against mine. "I'm not asking you to decide today, baby. Spend as much time as you need. I've been waiting for you for a whole year, and I'll wait longer if I have to." Looking into those gorgeous blue eyes, I couldn't help but ask, "Why didn't you say anything?" Her lips touched mine. "Because I didn't want to force you to choose between me and her. You've been trying to get her to admit the truth for years. I was sure she wouldn't, so I decided to wait. If she had miraculously confessed, I didn't want you to feel guilty in front of me. And if not," she kissed me on the neck and I felt myself getting aroused. Grinning, she said, "Well, I've decided that you're the first in line." "Jenna." "Shh, baby, I'm not in a hurry. I'm happy with what we have now. Yes, I want more, but we can move as fast or as slow as you want. I'll be right there, okay?" She pulled back to look into my eyes once more. "I'll be yours when you're ready. If only you'll be mine too." I opened my mouth to protest, but then I thought, why am I resisting? Jenna is wonderful. Yes, there is an age difference, but she is not a girl who has just graduated from college. She is closer to 30 than to 25. And she and I are closer in character, goals, and views than Sam and I are. Studying Jenna's face, I realized that I was looking at her in a new way, not as my ward, not as a friend, not as a lover, but as all this at once and even more. She didn't say the L word directly, but there was love in all her actions, in all the long conversations, hurried dinners and evenings spent with her in and out of bed. I thought about the time we spent together, and the time I regretted wasting trying to save a dead marriage. This was the beginning of my second act, and my main character will be Jenna. I want it too. Her eyes lit up. Really? Her question was answered by a kiss, A long, slow kiss of two lovers who can become something more permanent. This will happen when the time comes when all the debris will be removed. But then the kiss turned into something more familiar, into the passionate embrace of two people who thoroughly know each other's bodies, but do not get tired of exploring them. Jenna pulled away briefly to stand up and take my hand, eagerly leading me to her bedroom. Our bedroom? We'll talk about this later. I hadn't been with her in weeks, and we were both acutely aware of our shared, barely contained desire. But even more, we needed to confirm everything that we had just talked about, and nothing could stop us from doing it. By the time we undressed each other, our clothes were in complete disarray, with buttons torn off and seams torn, but we didn't care. We lay together for a while, snuggled up in each other's warm embrace. Under other circumstances, perhaps we would have been lying like this. But I was still firm, and Jenna didn't just want my fingers. Stroking my face with one hand, she asked gently, "Will you make love to me?" I reached for the drawer of the bedside table, but I heard, "Just without a condom, please. No more need. I want to feel you, all of you." Jenna was on the pill, and I knew I was clean, and if she was telling the truth, and I'm sure she was, then so was she. Her bedroom actually became our bedroom for at least a few weeks. In the end, we both agreed that it made sense for us to live separately until everything was sorted out. Jenna and I still go to bed with each other almost every night, but having separate addresses until the most difficult moments of the divorce were sorted out was the most sensible decision. And oh my God, there were so many unpleasant moments. First of all, the children. They weren't thrilled with Sam or me. Their mom talked to them first, and although she didn't completely blame me for the breakup, she was, let's just say she is selective in providing information. I got a scolding from both Matt and Riley, but my children calmed down a bit, at least in relation to me when I gave them all the necessary context, albeit for different reasons. Matt had a baby on the way, and he understood why I stayed with her for a long time, especially when I explained what the consequences were. When he found out that a divorce would mean almost no meetings with him and Riley, as well as how close we were to poverty without even trying to run two households, he began to understand. And when I explained to him what impotent rage and crushing sadness my reluctant agreement had generated, he became even more responsive. Matt still wasn't happy, but he accepted it. Riley was furious when she found out the truth. She actually took to heart the lessons of honesty and responsibility that we tried to teach her. And after learning about everything her mom had done, she was very strongly opposed to Samantha. It wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want their relationship with either of us to suffer, if only for the sake of the kids. But it was much better than if she was mad at me. To some extent, she was still angry, but my daughter put the main blame for our divorce on my wife's shoulders. Then there was the divorce itself. When the division of property began, it seemed that everything would be amicable. But it did not last long. Sam was fighting to keep the house. I offered to buy it back for her, but she couldn't afford it. After she let me go, Samantha demanded an increase in alimony. And then the disputes began about the division of property, pensions, etc. She spent so much money on our lawyers and still got basically the same share that I originally offered. However, now her share has become smaller, because the whole pie has decreased. Jenna's place in my life wasn't as difficult as I expected. Neither Matt nor Riley were happy that I was dating someone who wasn't much older than them, but that wasn't the main point of disagreement. Their mom tried to convince them from the very beginning that Jenna stole me from my wife. Even after I convinced them that this was not true, this thought stuck in them on a subconscious level. It was only after our wedding, and especially after Jenna's insistence that we entered into an ironclad prenuptial agreement, that they finally recognized her as my partner. Yes, our wedding. When the division of the property was completed almost a year later, thanks to my ex-wife's desperate attempts to maintain her usual lifestyle, I bought a smaller house and Jenna moved in with me. It was bliss. To be honest, it never stopped being bliss, and a year later we got married. Like any couple, we have our own problems. Some of them are standard, for example, the distribution of responsibilities between two hardworking people who are very tired at the end of the day. Some are unique to relationships with significant age differences. But when it came down to it, we were devoted to each other and our future, and our children. Initially, only Jenna wanted children. My wife could be persuasive when she wanted to. She was about 30 and I was about 50, but she claimed that I was as healthy as a horse. I must admit, after playing with my grandchildren, I began to miss the patter of little feet around the house. A few years after our wedding, Jenna stopped taking pills, and after Dylan and Zoe were born, I had a vasectomy, twins. Yes, we haven't slept for a while. It was surreal to see my grandchildren and my two youngest children growing up together. However, I would like to be a little more active for their sake. Health is one thing, youth is another. But we are a happy family, and that's the most important thing. Samantha was surprisingly optimistic when we first found ourselves together at an event after my wedding to Jenna. It was Riley's wedding. Our daughter was getting married to a great guy, and we were both happy with her fiancé. Sam finally came to terms with her role in the collapse of our marriage, and over time our feelings for each other boiled down mainly to liking the people we were when we were young and recognizing each other as parents. We even danced together while Jenna chatted with my ex-wife's boyfriend. Sam smiled at me. "You look very happy, Kyle." "That's right. Very." There was a hint of sadness in her eyes. "Happier than you were with me?" It wasn't a question. A sympathetic smile was all I had left to soften the blow. In the end, yes. I really messed up, didn't I? We both made mistakes, Sam. I could have handled the situation better too. I was so fixated on getting you to admit it yourself. Maybe if only... I shook my head. I don't know. It doesn't matter now. No, probably not. But still, she wiped away a single tear. I'm glad that we had the time that we spent together. I will always cherish it. Me too. And we have wonderful children. Samantha smiled broadly and radiantly. For a moment I saw in her the woman I loved so much. This woman, the young wife and mother whom I adored, will always have a piece of my heart. Yes, it is. Truth. The music ended. My first true love stood on tiptoe and kissed me on the cheek, and then walked hand in hand with me to my greatest love. When I took Jenna by the hand and led her to the dance floor, my ex-wife said, "I'm very happy for both of you." Maybe she was telling the truth, and maybe she wasn't. It didn't matter, because when my wife and I danced a slow dance looking into each other's eyes, I could honestly say that I had never been so happy.